Coach Kelly, we're official.
Finally, get a chance to meet you.
I'm telling you, same to you.
I thought I had to get a private audience with the Pope. It was Jordy.
Right. Well, we got a private audience to meet
That's
you.
right.
Congratulations on all your success.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good start. I mean, look, you start to, put it against what Kim Mulkey's done. I really haven't done anything, I got a long way to go.
How much does that help you, other people being successful on this campus?
Well, I just think LSU athletics as a whole has set a bar, whether it's going on in baseball, obviously what Kim has done, track and field, women's softball. I could go on and on. I think that's what LSU athletics is about, and that's why I came here. I wanted to be around, championship level performances in all sports.
I was wrong about you. I thought when you got down here, I thought you were a coat and tie guy. I thought you were, kind of what I saw through television of just kind of watching you lead a prestigious university. Every time I see you in interviews, your shorts, you see you at the Final Four and it looks like you're having a good time. This is kind of, it feels like almost like kind of football Camelot for you. I mean, like where it's, the priorities down here are to win football games and they're very high for the people around it.
Yeah, and I still want to represent our program in a manner that, people respect what I do and how we do it in a professional manner and still develop our players. But Notre Dame is Notre Dame. Look, I love my time there, but it's a shirt and tie. And down here, you want to be professional, you want to do things the right way, you want to respect those that you're around and respect, obviously your fan base. But I want to be who I am too, and I like to be relaxed and enjoy what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and I certainly do.
I looked at the challenge that you took on last year when you took the job as great. I mean, this thing, the roster was turned over. There was a lot of personnel that was up in the air. I'd imagine that's probably around 200 people in this building, and almost 95% of them were turned over. Did you understand the challenge that you took on, or did you kind of were in it saying, damn, this is...
Anytime you take on a job at a Fortune 500 company, and I'm using that analogy, LSU football, and it's slipped, there are problems. But you don't know until you get in here and you spend a couple of days. And there were good people here. Make no mistake about it. There were a lot of good people. But the systems were broke. The organization needed to be retooled in the manner that I needed to bring it back, and in terms of what I saw as being the most important thing. So, we had to rehire some, but we had to bring in a lot of new people, and that takes time. Not to even mention the roster itself. There were a lot of players that, just weren't going to fit the kind of standards that we were going to place on them. And so, as you know, and this is not new news, but I think we had 39 scholarship players for the bowl game, and that was going to require a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I think is a great testimony for your program is that, look, kids today, they have the ability they can be somewhere tomorrow if they want to be, right. And once you got established and once your protocols were instituted and put in, nobody left. Nobody transferred. You went and got guys out of the portal, and people were leaving before you got the job. Did you feel the buy-in immediately?
Well, I felt the pride in LSU football, and our guys did not want to be last. They came to LSU they wanted to win championships. They were part of a championship, many of them, and so they felt that, and so they were very prideful. They were ones that wanted to be part of the solution, and so I think a lot of that buy-in was a number of the seniors wanted to make that change, and they did. They went from last to first in 1 year, and so a lot of that buy-in started with those veteran guys, and you could see that gradually taking shape with some of the younger players.
Just watching the spring games that were on television, one thing that jumped out about your squad is your quarterback room is very talented compared to a lot of the league and a lot of the country. I wonder, is it easier to recruit that position when you have talent or when you don't have talent?
That's a really good question. I think it's difficult in both situations. One, certainly if you don't have talent, People wonder whether you can develop them. And if you can't develop them, why would I go there? I want to go where they can develop me. If there's too much talent, then they don't think they can get on the field. Well, one would say, well, then you're not confident enough to play here anyway. So what we feel like is the most important thing is to show young men that we will develop your talent, whatever it is, when you come through these doors. And I think that that's what resonated with Garrett Nussmeier, that Garrett saw himself developing while he was here. Could he have played anywhere in the country and left here? Absolutely. There's no question. But I think what he saw was a couple of things. One, that what we told him actually happened. And two, he saw himself getting better. And I think those two resonated with him. And that's why I think we've got 2 championship quarterbacks.
Did you get what you wanted to get out of spring? And what was your intention going in?
So, you look at the spring differently in year 2 than year 1. Year 1, I wanted to make sure we knew how to practice the right way. Year 2, you start to now focus in on positionally, consistency, technique, tactically putting things together, and in certain some transfers. As you know, we're not as far along on defense as we are at offense in terms of young player development. So we've had to take a number of transfers again on defense. So it was important for Matt to get those guys into the system in the spring. So first thing was to get that group together and really work on the cornerback position, the safety position, linebacker position. And then offensively, the quarterback position was crucial for us. And then getting all of those wide receivers, on the same page. I think we did a pretty good job there.
You beat a lot of people in the second half last year, and you were the last team standing a lot of the fourth quarters. How much has that part changed? And I know how much you put into Dr. Frank's, what goes into that part of it.
So, Matt Frakes, Jake Flint, I think, Bo Lowry, who, we're going to miss him, but, we've hired a new athletic trainer who's going to do a great job for us. Those 3 working in collaboration allows your football team to develop in a manner where you should be playing your best football in November and December. We were a little thin in numbers where I think we wore down a little bit as we got into late November and December. I think the A&M game kind of exposed us a little bit, and obviously the Georgia game exposed us defensively where, we weren't where we needed to be. And that's where I would tell you that if there's some red flags in our program, it's still the depth in numbers. And we're getting there, but this is going to be a huge recruiting class for us again. That has been my probably biggest concern is the depth in our program because we're going to be better in November. We just need to be deeper.
Obviously, you've been in this trade for a long time. Being LSU's head coach, did you understand how much talent was in the state just right kind of underneath the building?
Well, I heard about it.
Right. Obviously, you've recruited it, too. You've recruited the state.
I recruited it, so I've heard about it.
Jordy, what I was concerned about was, can I find enough schools in the state that will have quality student athletes that recognize the value of an education? And I found more than I could handle. There's so many good schools that I was shocked, quite honestly. There's more than I had ever believed in the state of Louisiana. So there's plenty. Now look, this notion of locking down the state of Louisiana, I mean, it's a nice soundbite. What you have to do is recruit it, and you better know where they are. And you can't go, well, I didn't know he was up in West Monroe. Well, I didn't know he was at up at Calvary. You better know where he is. Now, if you choose not to take them, that's on you, but you better know where they are. And maybe we didn't do a good enough job up north, but we're going to be up north. We're going to be down south, and we're going to be in New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and I think that's the most important thing. And then we can spread out from there. But
we need to do a great job in the state.
The demand for you in this state, obviously, everybody's trying to pull at you, wants to see you, wants to meet you, but you got to really allot that time now differently than you did, I'd imagine, 3 years ago at this job, right? I think you were in North Louisiana talking about NIL just yesterday. How has it changed?
I think May, where our coaches are out on the road, May for me is really to educate and talk about NIL, to really be as accessible as possible. And really talk about our program and what we're doing and how we're doing it, doing things like this. You reach a lot of people across the state. So, trying to be as accessible as possible in the month of May, because as you know, June really becomes a recruiting month. It's official visits, it's camps. It used to be a big camp month, and it's still a camp month, but it's a recruiting month. And then July kind of recharge the battery, and then we're off and running. So May's a really important month to get out there and talk about the program.
How do you use analytics in your program?
Well, I'll give you an example. We use it because it becomes a model for us on our calls on fourth down. There's no hesitation on fourth down because we already have our decisions made.
So you knew?
Oh, yeah.
You knew on that too. I'm going.
Well, we actually do that on Thursday. So we have our 48-hour meeting on Thursday, and we make a decision if confronted with that scenario. Are we kicking it or are we going for two?
Now, as you know, when you remove the emotion from those kind of decisions, Jordy,
everybody's for two.
I'm telling you.
Now, at the time of
the cop said he's going for two. I said, no way, no way.
Now, at the time of it, it seemed like everybody forgot about that meeting on Thursday. They're like, you're doing what? I go, let me just remind you of what we talked about.
Right.
Yeah, you're right, Coach. You're right. Well, what it is it gives you the opportunity to practice that play 4 or 5 times. So we're able to rep the play. And at that point, man, I felt so confident in our guys. Why not let them go play? And so they executed, and we're happy for them. And, if we're confronted with a similar situation, in another ball game, we'll have to decide whether that's the right thing to do. It doesn't mean it's always going to be the right thing to do.
But that's analytical power?
That's analytical power.
Yeah. What'd you make of the league, your first year in it?
Oh, my gosh. Going on the road is a challenge. I mean,
look, first of all, you're on the road, but you are facing a crowd that is so passionate for their fans. Their fan base is so passionate. Auburn, for example, they're not having a great year. They're sold out. They don't leave. Florida, I mean, it's Tom Petty night, for crying out loud. I thought Tom Petty was alive again. I mean, it was crazy. And so going on the road, Arkansas, it didn't look like they were going to arrive, and then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, you can't hear yourself. So the thing that surprised me the most was how passionate the fans were when you go on the road, regardless of where that team sits. A&M at the end of the year, sold out. I mean, who would have thought? And I think that's the LSU brand. And then being on the road in the SEC.
So many pros have walked through this building every year, but it feels like once every decade you get one that stands out. Tyrann Mathieu was here about a decade ago. Harold Perkins is here 10 years later. They're both freshmen that made enormous impacts on the football field. How do you keep that measured? And he seems like a football junkie. He seems like he can't get enough of it.
He loves the game, and it's been fun to watch him this spring. And as you know, I mean, the game. We kind of drew it up in the dirt a little bit for him last year to get him on the field and kind of got him in positions where he could go get the quarterback.
He's playing linebacker now, and everyone's like, wow, you're going to take away. No, we're not. Matt's not going to take away any of his ability to go get the quarterback, but he's learning the position because he's going to move on to the NFL, and he's got to have a position. And so it was fun to watch him grow as a football player this spring, understanding, finding the tight end on the boot, getting into the flat and go hook to curl on the wheel route and just blitz in the A-gap and things like that. So it was fun to watch his development.
You've got to be excited what you've done at tight end in just over a year, right? I mean, you're a big tight end guy, and now you've got some options there.
We do, and we're not done yet. I mean, I think we're going to continue to push that envelope here in this April portal. Yeah, I think, obviously Mason Taylor, incredible freshman year. I mean, to turn himself into one of the, probably top 15 tight ends in the country as a freshman. And then add two, we think, legitimate tight end freshmen that are going to be really good players for us. We'd like to bring in a more mature guy that physically can maybe help us inline blocking, add some physicality as those young guys continue to grow. But it's what I like to do. I like to obviously control that edge a little bit more, and it's been a good process for us and a big change.
Emory Jones and Will Campbell are tremendous outliers in the game of football, right? It's not supposed to look like that. It's not supposed to be that easy.
Yeah.
But you've got a freshman class of offensive linemen coming in this season that feels like they're going to push for time on this line. That's another group, Coach, that in just a year ago, I didn't know who you were going to play. A year later, it feels like a strength of your squad.
I had no idea. That was probably, if we were sitting here last year, I would say, Jordy, give me 5 names. I'm not really sure who they're going to be. And Brad did an incredible job. And then the 2 freshmen, just outliers is a great way to put it. I've had only 1 freshman in my entire career, Robert Hainsey, who plays with Tampa Bay and started this year for them, who played as a freshman. And those 2 kids battled, and I want to say battled, because they are so mentally tough to play in the SEC as freshmen. You physically have to have gifts. I get that. But their mental toughness was amazing. Now you've got 2 guys with 2 veteran inside guys in Frazier and Dellinger. Our center position, we've got depth at center. We've added some guys from the portal. We've got the freshman class coming in. It's going to be a really solid offensive line moving forward.
You got a great landmark last year to kind of prove to the squad, to the team, that one game doesn't matter, right? The opening game, whether you win or lose it. But you got a great opportunity, right, with this one. When you
that's how I would put it. Is if you look at
how dysfunctionally we looked at times against Florida State, map that against Alabama, incredible progress. We're so much further along. Now take that in the opener against a really, really good Florida State team. It should be a great game, great excitement, and then certainly is going to project to be 2 top 10 teams probably playing in an opener, and I think it's great for your program.
Appreciate your time, Coach. I'll get you out of here on this one. I know you got a jammed up day. I mentioned to you about kind of the shorts and that approach. How's life in the South? I know that you're kind of a Boston native. You spent time in Midwest. And
man, I love it. I mean, first of all, the people are genuine.
For me and our family, it's been great. My daughter is in graduate school here. My son's working in personnel. My whole family is just engaged in the community. The food's great. You got to work out every day. That's the hard part. And what I love about the football end of things here is that there's high standards, but if you put your football team out there and they play the right way and they play hard for 4 quarters and they represent LSU the right way, they want you to win.
Yeah.
But they're going to treat you the right way.
Right.
And that's what I love. That you've got true football fans.
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, Jordy.
Thank you for the time.
Pleasure.
Yes, sir.